I'm Nate Dodson, along with my partner, Richard Robinette. We are the managing attorneys over at Crowdfunding Lawyers. Well, today we are going to talk about the new syndication model. And you know what? We're all used to the old syndication model, which is, of course, kind of doing these Reg Ds over and over and over. Oftentimes for real estate, you can do them for franchises, other business units, but it's just kind of rolling out syndication after syndication, asset after asset. And you know what? We're figuring out there's an easier way to do it that really gets to be beneficial for your business, really expands the net for your investors. And so we're going to dive in a little bit deeper. And thanks, Gene, for reminding us that we're not just here to have a good time. But
who would want to do that?
No, absolutely. So what we're going to talk about today is all about the series offerings and how it works and kind of the different regulations that we will leverage and use in order to make it kind of come together. We'll talk all about the regulations on the security side, as well as how it works with the LLCs. We're generally using series LLCs for these, and then just kind of dive into the benefits and how it all works.
So we'll start with our mandatory disclaimer, and that is that this is not legal advice. This is way too general to be legal advice. And if it were legal advice, you'd be paying a lot more for it. So I don't know if Taha has my mandatory disclaimer on screen, but it's there. We are not creating a attorney-client relationship by giving you this webinar and put that in your pipe and smoke it. All right, you want to go through our agenda?
No, absolutely. No? You're in control now.
All right, so here's our table of contents, if you will. So we're going to talk about what is a series offering. How does it give you the best of both worlds, or how can you get the best of both worlds by combining a series offering with a traditional Reg D offering? Then I'm going to get into boring stuff. Sorry, Gene, and talk about the regulations and the rules and all the things that go with that. I'll give you a brief description of series LLCs. We'll talk about soliciting investors and do's and don'ts, and then how to add series as your offering goes on, and then a few additional benefits.
Love it.
Okay.
So where do we start?
Where do we start? We start with you.
Oh, can I borrow that thing?
Take us away.
I'll hand it right back because I don't like these PowerPoint things. Let's just talk about what am I meaning by kind of this new syndication model. And it really is leveraging series LLCs for your investment projects, where rather than doing PPM after PPM after PPM after PPM, on and on and on, you get set up with a singular platform that you're just rolling out amendments or changes to the offering so that really all the investors are coming together into one LLC through different series, with the different series having the different assets, targeting different properties, buying different cars or collectibles. You can really do this with any type of general targeting particular assets type investment. So if you're doing syndications into real estate, hotels, anything along those lines, this will just really simplify your life. And why is it simplify your life? Well, from Reg D, of course, traditionally you had the up to 35 non-accredited investors, but no advertising and no marketing. Now, love the changes since 2012, allowing for the general marketing, online marketing, but now you're limited to only verified accredited investors. So really shrinking the pool of investors, but allowing you to market more. Now, over the last couple of years, Regulation A and Regulation CF have really come to the forefront as great usable platforms for going through a qualification or going through due diligence with a crowdfunding portal to make sure that, well, your platform is good. And then it's a matter of rolling out, and I'll talk specifically about Regulation A, but series after series for different assets And those assets and those series can have different terms, different investor rights, different fees. So it truly is that differing syndication, but you get all the benefits of being able to advertise and market to the online, the general solicitation, and the email blasts. So a lot more availability to the investors, while at the same time getting the benefit of you're still raising capital for a $4 or $5 million offering, as an example. While you're going through the registration process, not the registration, that's wrong term, the qualification process for Regulation A, as an example, for $75 million. So here's that example that if you are traditionally, just making it up, doing $5 million PPM Reg D offerings, we're actually here saving you money. If that's your model, doing $5 million Reg Ds, as an example, you've got what, 12, 13, 14, 15 different Reg Ds to get up to the $75 million. And for a lot of you, that is a couple of years worth of Regulation D syndications and what you're raising capital into. That's also a lot of legal fees and a lot of time and a lot of costs bringing it all together. With these series models, this is the reason why we do it a lot with Regulation A, is now all of a sudden you can create 15 different series, still buying exactly those $5 million equity assets that you traditionally have been targeting. You go through this qualification process once, you do all the filings with the states once, but now you're just rolling it out one after the other, where you can advertise and market online. You still get all the same benefits on the asset by asset investments. You're just doing it through a platform that you're setting up once and amending and adjusting without the huge time drain that it often takes to start from scratch with every PPM on an ongoing basis. Now, I talk a lot about Regulation A with these series offerings, mainly because if you're traditional syndicator, you're used to raising millions of dollars for your opportunities. But I like to bring up Regulation CF as well for a big reason. With Regulation CF, there is a $5 million cap on how much you can do on a year basis. However, there's so many people that are out there that are building those little rental portfolios or building the short-term rental properties, those opportunities that frankly, they may only need 100, 200,000 around there in equity for every one of these properties. And so traditionally, I mean, we've just been telling people cost benefit, it's not worth going through all the time, work, and cost to do a separate syndication for every one of these small properties. Easier to do a fund. It's not easier to capitalize a fund if you don't have a ton of experience to begin with. And that's where the series model with Regulation CF, Regulation Crowdfunding, can really be beneficial, because now all of a sudden you can roll into separate series underneath the same LLC, different rental assets without having to go through the entire PPM process. So ultimately saving you costs while opening up new opportunities to market, advertise online, email blasts, and everywhere else in order to do more projects with less work and less cost. So that's kind of the big difference between the Regulation A at 75 million, the Regulation CF capped at 5 million per year. Sometimes we'll even use Regulation D to do these, and the model works anyways. It's just one of the biggest benefits of doing the series offerings is actually the general solicitation, the right to be able to advertise and market them everywhere without having to start from scratch with a new PPM, with only limiting yourself to accredited investors only. So that's kind of the different regulations that this guy over here gets to talk all about. He gets to do the fun stuff, let me tell you. But with these, we're always using what's called a series LLC. And just to kind of go into the past, I cut my teeth in the legal industry doing entities, asset protection, and syndications in Las Vegas, Nevada. Love going back to old stomping grounds. But so we'd have a client who may have 20 different properties, and we would organize 21 different LLCs, a holding company and all these individual LLCs that held different assets, and it provided some level of protection. That also was a huge amount of administrative cost and maintenance for all of these different entities that the series LLC all of a sudden created rules to do all of that through one LLC and these separate subsidiary series. So this guy over here will talk all about that fun stuff. But until we get there, I get to continue on from a general sense. But when you're doing one of these series models, it is like the syndication where every deal doesn't have to be the same. Fees can change, investor rights can change, everything can change series by series. So think about it as a platform that's allowing more in marketing, more advertising on a syndication by syndication basis, but you're saving money and getting it all done once, and then just adding on the series as needed. And just as a reminder, if you got any questions, please add it to the Q&A. We're going to stop intermittently just so that you don't have to wait to the very end in order to get any of your questions answered. So just to speak on, when does this actually make sense? And I'll be honest, it doesn't always make sense, but we're here to talk about when it does. And so like if you're doing a real estate syndication model where you're actually funding stuff on a deal by deal basis, and you're already doing this repeatedly, this is a much superior way for you to crowdfund, for you to bring in capital for all of your deals through one platform. To differentiate it from a blind pool or a general fund, if you don't have a ton of experience, I'm already trying to dissuade our clients from doing a fund because simply it's tougher to capitalize that when the investors, all they can rely on is, what have you done lately? What kind of returns have you given to your investors? Rather than with these series models, the syndication model, where you're actually incorporating, selling, talking about a particular asset. So it takes a little bit of the focus off yourself and a heavier focus on the investment that it's going into. So this is kind of that best of all worlds where you can maintain the syndication model, but have it set up like a larger fund where you're taking care of everything all at once. And it is really tailored towards a lot of real estate. We can do it with collectibles, art, wine, cars, et cetera, baseball cards. You can do all of those. Most frequently, we see it with real estate, only because it's the easiest to roll into and also creates new opportunities to do these as REITs,